So let's talk about sampling. Maschine is probably one of the first software-based samplers which can actually record samples itself. Sure, there's now a lot of virtual software samplers on the market. However, all of them are missing one key functionality which we enjoyed on proper samplers, like traditional rack-based samplers. And that's the ability to record samples. So, ordinarily, let's say if you had a microphone, like so, and you wanted to record a bunch of weird sounds into a microphone and chop them up and put them into a drum kit you can play, it's a quite a laborious process. First of all, you'd commence by opening some kind of wave editing application or recording program, or maybe inside of Cubase or Nuendo or Ableton, something similar. And first of all, you'd record all your sounds. Then next, you'd have to splice them all out and save them as separate files to a separate folder. And then you'd have to exit that application, then open your virtual software sampler, import those samples, and then finally they'd be available for playback. In the meantime, you may have lost the impetus of your original idea. So wouldn't it be cool if we had a device which actually had a sampling button like Maschine does here, and we could record samples as easily and effortlessly as I'm going to show you just now. So now, immediately, without having to perform 20 or 30 mouse actions just to record a bunch of samples and put them onto an instrument which is playable, with Maschine, it's literally button presses away. Let's add some more pieces to the kit. I've got a good way to make a kick drum. So, Maschine doesn't get in the way of your ideas. Basically, if you can be creative with a bit of creative sampling, like we would encourage you to do with Maschine, basically its interface is going to allow you to just get those ideas down as rapidly as possible. In my opinion, you can have a studio full of the most amazing equipment, but if you have all of it gets in the way of you getting your ideas down, then it really defeats the purpose of having the gear. So let's look at some of the editing we can perform on these samples I just recorded. So number one, if you look at the actual screen on Maschine itself, it has a full graphic waveform editing display. So straight away this should suggest to you that there's a lot more than just MIDI communication happening between the Maschine controller and the software. We can zoom the waveform and edit it without looking at the screen, which is an amazing thing. So let's take this beatboxed kick drum sample I just put in. So I'm going to trim the end of it, like so. Trim the start. I'm going to apply a few destructive sample editing functions to it now by pressing the audio button here. So normalize. We could reverse. We can fade it in, fade it out, DC offset fix, so on and so forth. I want to draw your attention to the kick drum I recorded by bashing the mic on my head. So this is where we can take advantage of some of the synthesis functions inside of Maschine. So let's take this kick drum I made with my head, and we will now investigate some of the functions we can perform on it. So we can tune it down, get a bit more subsonic action. On the effects page, and this is actually effects that are inbuilt in the synthesis per pad, without actually touching the effects tabs, we can now apply sample rate reduction, just a touch, or big crushing, just a touch, just to dirty things up a bit. There's also a one knob compressor inbuilt into the sound synthesis for each pad. There's also a drive stage. So this very kind of anemic sample I recorded by bashing the mic on my head earlier has now become this walloping great kick drum. So we could now gritty that up a little further. Perhaps maybe we tune it back up a bit. And maybe we'll add a filter. So there's also filtering on per pad basis in Maschine. So we can make it a bit more woofly. We can then apply some modulation to the cutoff frequency of that filter I just added. So if we go to the velocity destinations page, we can now modulate the cutoff frequency with velocity. So this is incredibly useful.